Hello and welcome. This is Wylker, and today I'm going to be looking at Minefactory Reloaded. It's the latest version 2.4, and it's for Minecraft version 1.5.1. And for those of you that have watched my other spotlights, you know I've done several Minefactory Reloaded videos. This one is going to be a comprehensive overview of the entire mod. I haven't spotlighted the whole mod in a long time. I've just been doing updates for it. And I was talking to Powercrystals, and we thought now would be an appropriate time to kind of go over everything. For those of you that haven't seen it before, or that aren't really sure how the entire mod works. So here we go. Let's see, I'm going to turn off creative mode here. All right, so the first thing you need to get started with Minefactory Reloaded is rubber. And rubber you get from Minefactory Reloaded rubber trees. And these look pretty distinctive. You'll see they've got these bright green leaves on the top and kind of this lighter brown colored trunk. And when you cut it, you're going to actually get wood and rubber. You see both of those items? I get a rubber wood and a raw rubber. And I'm just going to cut some more of this. And you'll find these trees in a few different biomes. They're not restricted to just swamps like IC2 rubber trees are. So you'll probably have a little bit of an easier time finding them on some maps. And I just, I showed you a couple different sizes of them, but they're pretty easy to find. So the next thing you need to do is come over here and grab your raw rubber, and you want to cook it. And the first time you cook rubber, it's going to turn into a rubber bar. And these rubber bars are actually registered in the ore dictionary to be compatible with IC2 rubber after you extract it. So these rubber bars are the exact same thing as the black circle rubber bars that you see in IC2. However, to build Minefactory Reloaded machines, we need to do one more thing. We need to process them again. So the second time you cook them, you're going to get raw plastic. Raw plastic is the basic building block for a lot of machines. The first thing you want to probably build is your precision sledgehammer. And the precision sledgehammer is a tool that lets you interact with different Minefactory Reloaded machines and lets you rotate them and do some other things. And you'll notice I'm trying something new for this spotlight. I'm just going to, instead of going through all the recipes, I'm just going to put them up on the screen there like I am now for this sledgehammer recipe. That way they'll just kind of be there. If you want to look at them and reference them, you can, but hopefully it'll speed up the video a little bit. Okay, so let's get rid of these. The first important tool that you'll need to use as a basic building block for all of the machines is this block, which is the factory machine block. And the factory machine block is just a core block. It's used for building a ton of stuff. There's the recipe for it. And you're going to see it in a ton of these other recipes. So moving on, one of the, I think, big things that sets Minefactory Reloaded apart from other mods is its ease of use for doing different farming and like livestock projects. So we're going to look at those first. What I have set up here, you'll see, is an area, and there's a couple machines here. And down below the ground, we have a planter. So the planter has a user interface that has a couple different colored blocks in a grid here. All the Minefactory Reloaded machines are going to have some kind of interface like this. You see here, this is for power. This is for work. Work can be a variety of different things on MFR machines. In this case, there's not much for this machine to do. And the last one's the idle phase. And you'll see the idle's moving very rapidly. That's because it doesn't have any work. But I'm going to give it some work here in just a minute. The last thing you see, and this is pretty new, is the upgrade slot. And let's see. Let's grab a 10 upgrade. Okay. So you see I have a pretty big area cut out here. By default, these plant machines will only operate in a 3x3 area. So it's pretty small. Let's grab a couple of these things. So I'm going to go ahead and throw some seeds into this planter. Okay. And watch what happens. Oh, and by the way, these color-coordinated zones literally correspond to how the planter will plant on the ground. Now, you have to set this up before you provide power to the machine. But essentially what it'll do is if you put a specific item in one of the boxes, it'll only plant it in that grid, as long as the other grids are full. If the other grids aren't full, it's going to randomly grab an item from one of the other boxes that has an item in it. I talked to Emmy and Powercrystals a little bit about I don't know what I thought this functionality should be, but they may leave it like this. So I'm just going to throw these in the middle, and you're going to see immediately it plants an area, and it plants a 3x3 area. Now, if I had a dirt block on top of this planter, it would have planted right on top of itself too. Let's grab some more seeds here real quick. Now what you're going to see is when I drop this upgrade in here, now it's going to start planting the entire field. And I'm sure it's going to run out of seeds, so here's some more for it. So now I have the entire field planted. And you notice it skipped some spots. That's kind of a balancing mechanic. What it does is if it finds an unplantable area, if it runs out of resources, it will skip that block and move on to checking the next one. So the longer it sits checking blocks, the longer you're going to have to wait. And you see there the cycle finally finished and it started over. So let's throw a dirt block back down on top of here. You know, I'm not going to worry about that. So the next machine over here is the harvester. And the harvester works pretty much like you'd expect. It will harvest fully grown plants. It's very smart about harvesting. For example, if you have it set up to harvest sugarcane, it won't harvest the whole thing. It won't kill your sugarcane plot or your sugarcane plots, excuse me. But you can see right now we don't have any fully grown plants. So that's where this next machine comes in. This is called the fertilizer. And the fertilizer uses industrial fertilizer. And the industrial fertilizer is, there's a couple ways to make that, but here's, there's a straight crafting recipe, and I'll get into another way here in just a minute. And I have this thing shut off. Most MFR machines do respond to redstone signals. So if you provide a redstone signal, they will turn off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn this guy on. And you'll notice he starts growing our plants. Notice he only did a 3x3, and that's because he needs an upgrade. So now we'll throw an upgrade in him, and that's kind of weird. I wonder why I didn't fully grow everything. There it goes. So he's going to keep providing fertilizer to them until they're full grown. And then we're going to need one more 10 upgrade over here, right? Let's see. And once we get the 10 upgrade thrown in our harvester here, you notice when I turn the harvester on, gosh darn, look, all right, there we go, and turn him on, he's going to very quickly harvest only the full-grown plants. And as soon as he harvests them, the planter is going to go back there and replant them, and the fertilizer is going to continue providing fertilizer to the plants. And you'll see if you don't keep these well stocked, they're not nearly as efficient. And also the bigger the farms are, the harder it is for them to be efficient because it has more empty space to sit and process. So a couple cool things. The planter will automatically plant on any kind of appropriate soil. You don't have to have a water source nearby. And then a really cool side effect of this harvester is you see it has a liquid kind of inventory here, and I've got it automatically outputting to this what was that? Oh, to this Buildcraft tank here. By the way, the harvester will auto eject the things it harvests and do an attached inventory, so you can hook up a pipe to it, you can hook up a chest to it, whatever you want. So this stuff that that you can see the harvester spitting out is called sludge. My apologies, you guys may notice some of these chests are a little bit glitchy. There's some kind of weird rendering thing with them that some of the guys are trying to work on right now. So anyway, you see I've got the sludge being pumped out of the harvester, and then I have it further being pumped over into this little guy, and he is called a sludge boiler. And the sludge boiler is just a neat way to use this byproduct. I will give you a warning though. You'll see when I turn this thing on, it's going to start working. Let's see if I can get here. See, and what it does is it very slowly produces either sand, dirt, or occasionally soul sand. But I'll warn you, if you get too close to it, it does give you hunger and poison. So be real careful with your sludge boiler when it's on and running. I'm going to turn these back off because they're a little bit annoying. All right. So that is, in a nutshell, how you do farming with Minefactory Reloaded. So these are all really powerful. Oh, I do want to show you guys one more thing. These do have a range, and the range is going to search the plane that they're facing at. So notice I have the harvester pointed at my field, and I have the fertilizer pointed at my field. And generally with Minefactory Reloaded, the animated faces are the ones that are directional. So that's more important over on the animal side. I'll show you in a minute because they're a little less obvious. These are pretty obvious which way they're facing, and of course, like I said, you can use the sledgehammer to rotate them. So one of the neat things about the harvester is some of its advanced functionality. You notice it has things for sheer leaves, small shrooms, and jungle wood. And what is going to happen here is, if I were to plant, say, an oak sapling, let's grab 2 of these. I'm going to grab just a stack of bone meal here. So if I were to plant a tree here, oh, that's weird. Hello? Not clear? Okay. There it goes. All right, so if I were to plant that tree and then turn my harvester back on, notice it will cut all the leaves off and then cut the tree down, and it's really fast. But you notice if I look in my chest, all I have is wood and saplings. If I change these options to go to sheer leaves, what will happen this time? What's going on here? Did they change how bone meal works? Is it like a % chance now? Or do you have to feed it a certain amount? Oh, maybe you have to use more bone meal to make a tree grow now. I had no idea. All right, so now I actually get the leaf blocks also. So similar functionality with small mushrooms. If you're trying to make a mushroom farm, you can have it pick up the small mushrooms off the ground. Otherwise, I think it ignores them. And then, let's see here. I'll show you the jungle wood, how this works. I guess you have to use 3 of those now. So here it's going to cut the tree down for me. Maybe. Oh, did I not turn it on? Yeah, so if you have it set to no, it'll ignore jungle wood, and that lets you harvest like cocoa beans and stuff. If you set it to yes, it should go ahead and cut this tree down. Maybe. There it goes. Yeah, so it'll ignore jungle trees and let you cocoa farm unless you specifically turn it on. All right. So that is Minefactory Reloaded farming. The next thing you'll see I have set up over here is some animal pens. And I have some cows in here. Let's get rid of some of this junk in my inventory. And the way the way the livestock breeding works is very similar to the way farming works. Remember what I said about the animated face? So there's the animated face of the first machine, which is called a breeder. And what the breeder does is it will look at a 5x5 area in front of it. And unlike the farming machines, currently the livestock stuff does not support upgrades. So you're going to work in 5x5 areas. You notice I have it preloaded with some wheat here, and again I have a redstone signal applied just to stop it from going crazy. I do want to show you the rest of the setup, and then I'll show you how it all works. What I have down here in the middle, and this is an exception by the way, I said that these guys didn't support upgrades, but this particular block called the sewer does. And you notice I do have an upgrade in there. And the reason this is cool in the sewer, because in the past, the sewer only had a 1 block radius on it. So it only looked at the block above it, which means, for example, for this cow pen, I would have had to have 25 sewers on the ground to support this 5x5 area. What the sewer does is it just passively collects poop from your animals. So what you have over here is liquid poop, and you can see it's appropriately colored. And I actually have that being pumped out into a tank. So there's our tank of poop. And I'll show you what we're going to do with that here in just a minute. And it's gross. So anyway, my sewer with the upgrade in it supports this whole area now, since I put a 3-block radius increase on it. And the cows are just happily living in there and filling up my sewer. The next machine over here is called a chronotyper, and you'll see the chronotyper has a real simple interface to it. It can either move babies or move adults. Notice I have this chronotyper here set to move babies, and it's pointing over here with the animated face at my first pen. The machine I have set up over here on the side of this pen, and again, 5x5 area where it's facing, is called a veterinary station. And right now I don't have anything in the veterinary station, and I'll show you how that works here in just a minute. Over here I have another chronotyper, and it's facing this pen, and this one is set to move adults. And finally, in my last pen over here, I have a machine called a mob grinder, or a grinder. And you'll notice it also has a liquid output as well as being hooked up to a chest. And let me show you real quickly how this works. So it's very simple. Your breeder will breed the cows. We're going to wait for the idle bar to go down to 0. And once it does, it's going to feed these cows. All right, so I had some minor technical difficulties, but they've been overcome. And we were talking about the breeder. So I've got that machine turned on, and you'll watch as it finishes its little cycle there. The cows make a baby cow. See that? There's our baby cow. And this guy over here will pull the baby cow into its own little area. And this is where we get into the next machine here. You know, I talked about the veterinary station. And the veterinary station has the ability to inject animals with syringes. So we're going to go ahead and inject it with a growth syringe. And watch what happens. When it completes its cycle, the little cow becomes a big cow, which means that my next chronotyper will be ready to grab it. See this? Set to moving adults. And the timing was good there because it landed right as my grinder was finishing a cycle, and the grinder killed it, which spit out mob essence into this big tank here, and also put anything that the mob dropped into any attached storage. So you can use a chest like I have here, or you can you know, route it into your item routing system, sorting system, whatever. And as you can see, let's see. These guys aren't quite ready to breed again yet. Let's see if the cycle gets them. Nope, not yet. Let's do this. Let's say we had a bunch of cows in here. All right. And it will continue to feed them, which will continue to make baby cows. And the baby cows will continue to get pulled over into this area. Now, see there's 2 baby cows here? I am out of growth syringes, so let me grab some more. Oops. Notice these don't stack, by the way. We'll toss them in. Baby cows gonna get turned into big cows. On this cycle, they'll get pulled over into this area here. And then as the mob grinder does its cycle, it will continue to kill them, put their stuff into the chest, and spit out mob essence. You may be asking yourself, what do we do with all this poop? And the answer is we run it through this machine called a composter. I don't know if you remember, I mentioned earlier when we were looking at the fertilizer that fertilizer is kind of expensive. Or I may not have, but fertilizer is kind of expensive. What the composter allows you to do is simply by using your poop, it will generate, let's see here, watch the work bar go up. And as soon as it finishes, it will enable us to make industrial fertilizer, which is the MFR fertilizer that goes in that machine. You know, I talked about the sewer production being pretty quick. It's a pretty self-sustaining system. You know, obviously it's can use a buffer like this, but especially if you have more than just a couple animals feeding your sewer, it'll fill up rather quickly. what do we do with mob essence, you may be asking? Well, mob essence can go into an item called an auto spawner, and that leads us into a really neat mechanic of Minefactory Reloaded. These guys here are called safari nets, and there's 3 kinds. There is a safari net reusable, a safari net single use, and this guy, which is a safari net single use, and you'll see its little tooltip says it is a mystery. And where that comes from is a special kind of Minefactory Reloaded villager. Powercrystals has added a Minefactory Reloaded house and a Minecraft Factory Reloaded villager, and they will trade you these things for emeralds or items and stuff like that sometimes. And literally what happens with these guys is a random creature pops out. And in that case, I got a sheep. The way the safari nets work is you can grab your empty safari net and get it on your hotbar here and walk up to a creature and right click it, and it grabs it and captures it. And you notice here the reusable one shows me that it's a sheep, it has 8 health, and then it has white wool. You could also, for example, grab a cow, and I'm going to use my, where'd it go? My single use this time. And notice it shows me a cow with 10 health. Now if I right click this again, it's going to drop him back on the ground. And notice that the safari net disappears. So you can use those safari nets to pick up entities, and I think including villagers. You can pick up villagers with them and toss villagers or entities wherever you want them. So it's a great way to grab creatures and get them all stuck into an animal farm. Or you can also use them for this little guy right here. And what he does is you take your safari net and you plug it in there, and it will begin spawning copies. Oops, I meant to put a lever on that and I forgot. So you notice here it'll begin spawning copies. And I want to show you an important mechanic. Notice how most of those are white, but this guy over here is gray. Let's get rid of these sheep. Sorry, sheep, you're annoying. And that's important because there is a UI element of this device, which you'll see, that shows spawn exact copy. And in this case, I had no on there. And had I selected yes, then that block would have spawned nothing but white wool sheep. And this is really important because you can do a couple things with this. First of all, if you capture a mob with low health, it'll respawn new mobs only with low health. In addition, it will keep the color of things like sheep the same. Finally, if the mob has any special effects on it, for example, say a charged creeper, you could throw a charged creeper in there and it would very happily spawn charged creepers for you. Now, I had a ton of power hooked up to that one, which is why they were coming out so quick. And there's some things you should know about the mechanics on this. It takes 3 killed mobs worth of essence to spawn 2 mobs worth of spawners. So you can't use it in an endless loop. You have to have some other way of getting mob essence in order to continue to produce mobs out of your auto spawner. In addition to that, it will spawn really quickly if you give it enough power. So be aware of that. And finally, like all the other machines from MFR, it does respond to redstone. So if I put that in there, you'll notice the progress bar stops filling up and the idle bar fills, and then it won't begin production again until I remove the redstone signal and the idle bar goes to 0, and then the work bar will fill back up. The other really neat thing you can do with the mob essence is plug it into an enchanter. And what the enchanter is going to do for you is, let's grab a golden sword here. The enchanter is going to allow you to plug an item in. Oh, it needs power. Let's grab a big power source here. Get it some power. And you'll notice here the work begins to fill up. Now, in this case, I'm enchanting a golden sword, and it takes 2,590 work to complete it. And that's important because of what I'm going to show you next. That's a really neat mechanic of the auto enchanter. I'm going to go ahead and cut the video while this fills up, and I will be right back. Okay, so as you can see, my work bar is almost filled up here. I have level 30 selected as my target level here in the user interface. And what's going to happen here is it gets to 2,590 work. My gold sword is going to pop out of my input and come into an output. And you see I got sharpness 5 here, so not a bad enchant. But one of the really neat things about the enchanter is that you can pull an enchanted item out of its output, or wherever you get one from, and stick it back in the input. And now it's going to re-enchant it and enchant on top of it again, only this time it's going to scale the amount of work that takes. So you see my first level 30 enchant took what was it, like 2,400 work. This one takes 4 times as much, so it's going to take 10,000 work to get that done. And along with work, you notice it used a ton of my mob essence. Let's get some more mob essence going here. Put this in creative for a second. Let's fill this guy back up. Oh, speaking of mob essence, let me show you one other neat mechanic here. In addition to being able to use a grinder, as I've done there for mob essence, there's a neat item here called an XP extractor. And the tooltip tells you real clearly that it needs an empty bucket to fill. And you'll notice that I'm level 22. What's going to happen here, if I right-click and hold the extractor, it fills up an empty bucket with mob essence. Then I can dump it into my system. I can just continue doing that as many times as I want to. Each time I do it, it's going to remove a level. And that's another way to get your mob essence set up and running. I'm going to go ahead and walk away from this machine for a minute, and we'll let it do its thing, and we'll come back and check on it in just a few. So what's next? Let's talk about the rancher, or machine that has a couple of features to it. I spoiled it a little bit. You notice it has a liquid buffer here for milk. So the rancher will do a couple things. The first thing it will do is if you have sheep in the pen that it's attached to, it will shear them for you. And any sheared wool goes right here into an attached inventory or pipe system. Okay? The next thing it will do, and it really only does one of these at a time, so you've got to decide what you want to have it do, or you have to set up multiple ranchers. But if you have a cow in here, it will constantly milk the cow for you. And I don't think there's an internal cooldown on cows getting milked. So I guess, you know, you'll have to, maybe he'll change that at some point in time. Oh, hey, there's our glitch with chests. But as you can see, it will rather quickly get a tank filled up with milk from a single cow. So I don't really know the vanilla cow milking mechanic or how any of that works. So I don't know if this is kind of OP or not. You have to decide on your own. And this is, I believe, a really good place to split this video up. That basically covers all of the farming and livestock management of Minefactory Loaded. So stay tuned for part 2, where I will go over some of the rest of the machines and some of the new features. See you soon.